wet sand after I add the liquid.
Pinch and press the butter into the flour until the mixture resembles coarse sand.
This looks nothing like sand. Maybe I hadn't been to the beach in a while. I'm gonna change that. Hi, I'm Melissa Clark. I'm a food columnist and reporter for the New York Times and NYT Cooking, and I'm here in the beautiful NYT Cooking studio kitchen to make something really delicious. Okay, I'll tell you, I'm making a giant jam bun. Don't you love the sound of that? Giant jam bun. It just sounds so inviting. So what's a giant jam bun? I'm in this jam situation in my house. I have too many jams. In fact, I have an entire half a shelf of my fridge devoted to jam. This is a jam shelf. So I came up with a bunch of recipes that revolved around using up the excess jam in my fridge. That's what happens when you have a jam obsession.
You were in a jam.
Oh my God, I was in a jam. I was in a jam. The image in my head was a pinwheel, and I think it came from this recipe from Erin Gardner for a pinwheel type cinnamon scone. And I thought, all right, well, let me do that, except instead of cinnamon sugar in the middle, I want to do jam. And then I want to put an icing on it. I want to make the dough that's a little softer, a little cakier, and Giant Jam Bun was born. So first thing we're going to do is make the dough, and then we're going to make the filling, and then the icing comes after it's baked. So step one, make the dough. Scone doughs are a piece of cake. They're really easy. They're a piece of scone. They're so easy because you can just do it in a bowl with your fingers, kind of like a pie crust, except lower stakes. You know, like if you overwork that butter into your scone, it's going to be fine. A little bit of sugar. You don't need a lot of sugar, especially because we're putting an icing on it later. You don't want to go crazy. Cinnamon. Of course, salt and baking powder. And a good way to know if you've mixed this enough is the cinnamon it should turn the whole thing kind of beige-ish. You shouldn't see little specks of brown cinnamon. All my ingredients are nicely mixed in. Cubed cold butter. You really want to start out with your butter being cold because you're going to smush it with your fingers. You're very clean hands. So start out with it cold so it doesn't get too melty. I love this. I seriously love, this to me is just the best part of baking. It's like a kid thing, I guess. Very tactile, smoosh. If you have kids who like to stick their hands in things like butter and flour and sugar, call them over, get them working. I'm just taking these butter cubes, I'm making sure they're coated with flour, and then you just take it between your fingers and you just smush and you're flattening it out. And then as you flatten them all, they start to break apart. You see how you can see the big pieces of butter and the flour. You want it to look a little more homogeneous, a little more like, it should look like flour-covered cornflakes. So that sort of looks like flour-covered cornflakes, right? You see how everything's like flat and flaky? I'm gonna make a little well. And this is just heavy cream. I have done this recipe with other dairy products. I've done it with yogurt, like thin yogurt. I've done it with buttermilk. I really like the cream, surprise, surprise. I like it not just for its richness, but it's sweet. You know, I don't necessarily want the tang here. This is just a touch of almond extract. You really have to be careful. Too much almond extract just makes it taste it's like chemically. With a mixer, it's easy to overmix. But with your hands, you really have to go at it. So just remember that. Feels like it wants a little more liquid. Perfect, I think that's gonna be. So if you need to add a little bit extra cream, go right ahead. It should start to come together. Okay, so I'm gonna continue kneading this on my counter and just gonna add a little bit of flour to keep it from sticking. So you just wanna knead it very gently until it comes together. And this looks great. It's not wet, it's just cohesive. You can see the little bits of butter there. That's what's gonna make it flaky later. Now I'm gonna press it out. You can use a rolling pin, but you really don't need to. I'm gonna press it out to a 5 by 14 inch rectangle. I do have a ruler. I had a ruler. I have a clear ruler that's hard to see. So this is almost 5 here, but 14, that's pretty long. It's longer than this. Okay, here's a tip. If it starts to stick, if you feel like you're pressing it and it's sticking, you just want to move it and put a little more flour. If you don't have a little bench scraper, they're so handy and they're little and they're cheap. Just get one. Could also use a pancake flipper. As you can see that, as I'm pressing it out, what went from a kind of dryish dough is now becoming more hydrated, and that's just because the flour is absorbing the liquids. So, okay, we're at 12, but we're not at 14. You'll notice there are thicker parts in the dough. Just start pressing there. Okay, We are good. Ta-da! That's what it should look like. So I'm gonna just let this hang out for a few minutes while I make the filling. I'm gonna go wash my hands. People write to me about these towels. People love these towels, I love these towels. Filling, true to the Giant Jam Bun. We gotta have the jam. This is just raspberry jam. This is important, don't use jelly. If you use jelly, which I have done, it is going to leak out of your bun, get all over your baking sheet, burn, and make a mess. Thick, sugary jam, a nice thick marmalade will also work. You can use any kind of citrus zest. You could use lemon, you could use lime, I'm using orange, any of those will work. Citrus zest has a little bit of brightness, acidity. Mix it in, and that is your filling. Super easy. You just spread this on top of your dough. I love an offset spatula, but a spoon or a butter knife will also work. What's nice about the raspberry or any red jam is that the color is so pretty at the end. What's the difference between a marmalade, a jam, and a jelly? So a jam has lots of pieces of fruit in it. It actually has the fruit pulp. Jellies just have the fruit juice that are set, either naturally or with a little bit of pectin. And then marmalade is with citrus peel. Spread to the edge, always spread to the edge when you make toast with jam on it, when you make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, when you put mayonnaise on your turkey sandwich, whatever, spread to the edge. So this is a croissant cutter, people. It's so cool. I've never used one of these before. Okay, can you school me in this?
So you just go, and it's already evenly spaced, so this one has 4 wheels, so we go, you'd have 1, 2, 3, 4, like that.
Cool, so this cuts 4 things at the same time. Should I try it? You could just use a regular knife, you could use a regular pizza cutter, you could use a bench knife. I love a bench knife. Doop, doop, doop. Here we go. Ha 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 ha. Whee! You know, I still managed to not make it even, even though but that's just me. As you know, if you bake anything that I make, it does not have to be even to be delicious. So this is the fun part. This is just a parchment lined pan. You can also do it on a buttered pan if you don't have parchment, but the parchment makes cleanup easier. So this is what you do. You take this and just roll it up like a little coil, right? And it doesn't matter if it looks messy, because it all bakes out in the end and it will look beautiful. So if it's not all even, just flatten it out so that it's all approximately even. I'm just taking it and wrapping the next piece around jam side in. Just remember jam side in. Think of the jam as your glue. And all I'm doing is I'm kneading up the place where the dough finished. I'm just gonna add the next piece of dough. Okay, this might look like a murder scene right now, but I swear to God it tastes good. That is it, and just press it in. So this just looks like a big pinwheel with jam in the middle. So you need to put this in the fridge for at least an hour or overnight, or if you forget about it, it's gonna be good 3 days later too. And in the meantime, you can have some tea, dream about giant jam buns. And you don't need to cover it tightly, you just need to lay it over. It can be loose. Into the fridge. Alrighty, let's get this bun in the oven. So it doesn't look any different, it's just cold. 350. Okay, so it should be nicely browned, just at the edges, but the rest of it should be, solidified. So we're just gonna let this cool. I'm gonna make the glaze meanwhile. I'm gonna use the same orange, and I'm gonna use the juice to make the glaze. If you didn't put any citrus in your giant jam bun at all, you can just use a little milk or water to make the glaze. You need about between 2 and 4 teaspoons, but I'm not gonna measure it because it's really about knowing what it should look like. That's the most important thing. You want it to be thick but pourable. This is important, is not to overjuice it, to go slow with the juice. There it goes. It's just like a few drops makes all the difference, which is why I go so slow. As you mix it, it starts to thin out. This is right. See how it's pourable, but still thick. Thicker than heavy cream, and then we're going to just glaze it right on top of that. So this is what it looks like, this beautiful giant jam bun. It's got the icing. I put a little orange zest on top just to make it pop even more. You don't have to do that, but look how pretty. This is the best part of every video, when I get to eat the thing. So it's nice and tender. It's a lot more tender than the usual scone, a little bit lighter. That almond extract, I love it. The jam helps keep it really moist and tender on the inside. You know how scones sometimes can be a little dry? Not this one. It's just so cakey and moist, almondy, fruity, sweet. I love it. What else do I say? You can find this recipe and so many more at nytcooking.com.